In the vast stillness of the desert, where the earth cracks under the sun and the air shimmers with heat, the story of manna begins. It is a tale of hunger met with miracle, of weary feet moving through a barren land, guided by faith alone. According to the Bible, when the Israelites wandered the wilderness after their exodus from Egypt, they found themselves without food, exposed, uncertain, and desperate. But in that desolation, they woke one morning to find the ground scattered with a mysterious substance. It was delicate like frost, white and fine. When they tasted it, it was sweet, like wafers made with honey, the scriptures say. They called it manna, and for 40 years it sustained them. To the Israelites, manna was more than nourishment. It was proof that they had not been abandoned. It fell with the dew and melted with the sun, appearing each morning like a divine promise renewed daily. It could not be hoarded or stored. It had to be gathered fresh, one day at a time, except before the Sabbath. It taught reliance, discipline, and gratitude. And above all, it sustained life not just in a physical sense, but in a spiritual one. It was the food of survival, yes, but also of faith, as if sweetness itself had descended from heaven to keep hope alive. The comparison to honey in this story is not accidental. In the ancient world, honey was the standard of sweetness. It was the richest, most natural taste of pleasure known to those who lived without sugar. To say something was like honey was to mark it as rare, valuable, life-giving. And in the case of manna, it draws a direct connection between divine sustenance and one of nature's most remarkable foods. While the true composition of manna remains a subject of scholarly debate, the symbolic resonance of honey within the story has endured for thousands of years. What's remarkable is how the qualities attributed to manna, sweetness, portability, energy, mirror those of honey in a very practical sense. Honey is one of the most efficient sources of energy in the natural world. A single tablespoon contains around 64 calories, mostly from simple sugars like glucose and fructose, which are absorbed quickly into the bloodstream and used immediately by the body. In a survival context, especially in harsh environments like deserts or mountainous regions, honey's high energy content and long shelf life make it an ideal food. It requires no refrigeration, it doesn't spoil, and it offers both physical fuel and psychological comfort. A taste of something good even in times of hardship. Throughout history, people have carried honey on long journeys and into battlefields, stored it in ships and caravans, and used it to fortify the weak and the sick. In modern terms, we might call it superfood. But in truth, it is something more ancient, more elemental. Honey doesn't just feed, it reassures. It connects us to the landscape, to the bees, to the flowers, to the cycles of seasons and light. It is stored sunlight, transformed through a dance of wings and chemistry, and it arrives to us not just as nourishment, but as legacy. When we consider how honey functions biologically, as a source of clean energy, as a food that's easy to digest, as something soothing to the stomach and sustaining to the spirit, it's easy to see why ancient peoples would see it as divine. Especially in a time before refrigeration, before convenience, before the luxury of excess, a food that required no preparation, that could heal and energize, that tasted like the sweetness of life itself. This was indeed a gift from heaven. In this way, the comparison between manna and honey becomes even more profound. Both are symbols of grace, of abundance in times of scarcity. They are reminders that even in the hardest moments, something beautiful can be given. And perhaps this is the heart of why honey has endured in legend and in kitchens alike, because it represents more than sustenance. It represents care, care from the earth, care from the divine, care from the hands that gather and share it. So today, when we spread honey on bread or stir it into tea, we might not be walking through deserts or relying on miracles, but the gesture remains sacred in its own way. It is a small blessing, a taste of something golden that reminds us of endurance, of sweetness, even in struggle, and of the quiet truth that sometimes the most miraculous things come not with thunder, but with dew.